Natural resources. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about the various natural resources like the land, water, air. So these natural resources, how they are affecting the life of different organisms that are living on this planet. We know that Earth is the only planet. So far we know Earth is the only planet. Earth is the only planet in the whole solar system. This is the only planet which is having life on it. Right? So no other planet. There are no traces of life on the other planets. The reason is because the Earth has got the natural resources. Like air, and even in the air contains the elements which are necessary for the life, the elements which are necessary for the existence and survival of life, like oxygen in the air. So good atmosphere is available on the earth. Good atmosphere in the sense the atmosphere that facilitate the life. Such an atmosphere, that is air, availability of water, availability of the soil and optimum temperature. So air, water, optimum temperature. That means the temperature which is not very too low, not very too cold, not very too high, which is proper for the growth of organisms. So such kind of conditions, temperature, optimum temperature, and energy from sun in the form of solar energy. So all these are the various conditions which facilitate the existence and continuity of life on this planet Earth. So there is no other planet which contains life, because the conditions are different. If you take any other planet like Mars, so why the life is not possible on Mars? Though so many researches are going on, so many rovers and probes we are sending to Mars to find out the conditions there. We find it, the temperatures are very high. The temperatures vary, not supporting the life. Even the atmosphere contains large amounts of carbon dioxide. So not as like the atmosphere on the planet Earth. So Earth has got all the things in a proper way which facilitate the existence of life on this planet. So here on the Earth, we find the land. The land part of the Earth is called as lithosphere, and water, 75% of the Earth is covered by water. It is called as hydrosphere, and air. The Earth is surrounded by air, a blanket of air, atmosphere, that is called as atmosphere. So lithosphere, the land, hydrosphere, that is the water, and atmosphere, that is the air. So these are the physical things by which the Earth is made of. And on the Earth, we see the organisms, life, living things. Living things. You call it as biosphere. So biosphere means all the living organisms that are existing on this planet considered as a biosphere. Now these are all different, but they are all interrelated, affecting each other. So here if you see each component, lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere and biosphere, there are some interactions among them. They are affecting each other. So let us see how they are affecting each other. Naturally they affect each other, but here this biosphere, in this biosphere, a part of the biosphere like humans, with our activities also, we are causing a kind of disturbance in these natural interactions, in these the natural setups. We are interfering and making some kind of disturbances in that. That also we will discuss in this particular chapter. So here the term biosphere It includes the living things plus the things that are necessary for the life. The living things, they cannot live in isolation. A life is existing in the sense, a living thing is living in the sense it need to have soil, water, air. So the strata, the layer in which all these living things, they are able to live with the help of soil, water and air, you consider it as a biosphere. Biosphere in the sense, not the living organisms in isolation. Living organisms along with the other things that help them to continue the life of the living organisms. So here you can divide it into two, but here the living things are biotic components of the biosphere and the non-living things are called as abiotic components of the biosphere. So biosphere consisted of two kind of components, one is biotic and the abiotic. Even in the biotic, there are three groups: plants, animals and microorganisms. So the biotic components include plant, animal and microorganisms. Abiotic components include soil, water and air. So here now, first we are going to talk about this air, the importance of the air, the breath of life, that is air. So we know what is air. Air is a mixture of gas. Air is a mixture of gases. What kind of gases are there? There are so many gases present in the air. If you see that, depends upon the percentages. If you see nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, there are many more gases. But primarily these are the gases which we are talking now, because we are going to see how these primary gases present in the air, how they are affecting. So basically the air contains nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide. So among these three, oxygen, it promotes the life. Many organisms, prokaryotic organisms, some of the prokaryotic, all the eukaryotic organisms and multicellular organisms, unicellular as well as multicellular organisms which carry out aerobic respiration, they need oxygen. Even we are aerobic organisms, means we are eating food. To generate energy from the food, we need to breathe oxygen. This oxygen, it enters the cells and help in the cellular respiration, so by the energy is derived from the food. If you do not have oxygen in the atmosphere, if you eat food, there is no use. You cannot get energy from the food which we have eaten without the presence of oxygen. So all the aerobic organisms, they require the supply of oxygen, and the source is atmosphere. The air contains proper amount of oxygen. So that is the reason, if you go to other planet where there is oxygen in the atmosphere, you cannot make a living. You need to carry your own oxygen cylinders. Otherwise you cannot make living, because oxygen is very essential for the living organisms, especially for the aerobic organisms. And in fact, majority of the organisms are aerobic organisms, right? So oxygen is very important. Second thing, carbon dioxide. I told you the fact, without oxygen you cannot utilize your food, but without carbon dioxide there is no food at all. See how carbon dioxide is the main source for the food preparation. Food, where do you get the food? You get vegetarian food or non-vegetarian food. You may get some kind of rice, dal. From where does this rice and dal comes? They come from the plants. From where do the plants get this rice nutrients? The plants, they prepare the nutrients with the help of sunlight. At the same time, they use carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is the chief component by which the plants make their food, which is consumed by other animals like humans. So plants are the major suppliers or producers of food. Plants make the food using sunlight and using carbon dioxide as a source material, raw material. So carbon dioxide is the primary compound, inorganic compound, which is a main part or major part of our food. So we are eating carbon compounds every day. We are eating carbohydrate, proteins, fats. All these are carbon compounds. So So all these carbon compounds are prepared by the plants by using this carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is very, very important. Oxygen is very, very important. Even nitrogen is very, very important. We will realize the importance of nitrogen in the coming sessions. Of course, the air contains some other gases. Of course, the air contains other parts like dust particles and water vapor, moisture, everything. So let us talk about this oxygen and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is percentage is less in our atmosphere. It's a fraction. The carbon dioxide, how it is produced? Oxygen is produced by plants, green plants, by photosynthesis. So this is the way how oxygen is produced. Now see carbon dioxide, how it is produced. Carbon dioxide is produced by respiration. All the aerobic organisms, they respire and they produce carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is produced by respiration. At the same time, carbon dioxide is also produced by burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are burned. When you burn wood, paper, cloth, coal, petrol, diesel, kerosene, oil, whatever the fuels you burn, materials you burn, carbon dioxide is released. Especially fossil fuels, in the sense, if you burn the coal, petroleum, diesel, all these are burnt in factories, in generators, in motor vehicles. So for the mechanical work, the fuels are burnt, and when these fuels are burnt, CO2 is released into the atmosphere. So even though the CO2 is released into atmosphere by various activities, the percentage of CO2 is not drastically increased in the atmosphere, because here CO2 is produced by these activities, and at the same time the CO2 is fixed by other activities like photosynthesis. Means the excess carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere is converted to carbohydrates again by photosynthesis, and certain marine organisms, they form their shells by carbon, they form carbonate shells. In this way, the carbon is fixed again. So whatever the carbon, large amounts of carbon is produced, that carbon is fixed again by this different methods like photosynthesis and shells by the carbonates, right? So this is the way the carbon dioxide which is produced into the atmosphere is fixed. So these are the compositions, and we have realized the importance of this oxygen and carbon dioxide, that is for the existence of the life. Now let us see the role of the atmosphere in the climatic control. Role of atmosphere, role of air in the climatic control. So the climate on the earth, already we discussed that the climate on the earth, it is optimum. That means it is best suited for the living organisms to carry out their life. So organisms, they make their living comfortably on this planet due to the atmosphere. Of course, atmosphere may be present on the other planets also. But here on the earth, the composition, the percentages of the gases present in the atmosphere, so it facilitates all the other things in a proper way. What are the other important things? Temperature. The atmosphere present on the earth, it provides an optimum temperature, proper temperature. You see, if you compare between the earth and other planets like Venus and Mars, so there the carbon dioxide levels are very high. So carbon dioxide levels are high in the sense the radiation also will be high. The heat retaining capacity also will be high. So if you see that Earth and Moon are taken as an example, both are from equal distance from the Sun. Both are having equal distance, Earth and Moon. But you see the differences. Earth, it is having a temperature. It will be having a normal temperature between some 15 to 30 degrees. It ranges between normal average temperature on this planet. If you go to the Moon, it will be minus 170 degrees to 110 degrees Celsius. You see how much of variation. So there is a lot of variation, right? So you see both are having equal same distance from the Sun, even though the temperature difference is found, because this is due to the atmosphere. So by this example we can understand the atmosphere has got a very important role in controlling the climatic condition. So the climate is controlled by the atmosphere, the composition of the atmosphere, the behavior of the atmosphere. So the atmosphere is affected by the other parts like sun, heat. It is affected by the land. It is affected by the water. So atmosphere is affected by the atmosphere. It is affected by land, water, and sun. These three things, they bring change in the atmosphere. If the water content is more in the atmosphere, it will be in a different way. So if the atmosphere, if the air contains more water, it will affect the climate in a different way, right? If the land is more heated and if it heats the atmosphere, it will affect the climate in a different way. And there is more sun, if the sun heats that. If the sun heats both the land and water, both of them heat the atmosphere and it will affect the climate in a different way. So the interactions among these parts, they will affect the climate. So in this we are discussing how the atmosphere is affecting the climate. Movement of air is called as winds. So we see winds. We will be having in a climatic condition or a weather. So the particular weather is very hot today. From morning you are feeling so hot, so sultry today. So in the evening, so you felt so hot on the whole day. By the evening, you have gone to the terrace. There you are experiencing some cool breeze. You can experience the air is moving. Why the air is moving? Why it is cool? So why the cold air coming to that particular place? How can it move? What energy makes the air move? Right? So let us say, with the help of an experiment, you can take a beaker, glass beaker, take a candle, light the candle. Now bring an incense stick or an agarbatti and light it here. You will find the smoke. But when you light the agarbatti at some other place, it will go, the smoke will move in one particular direction. If you bring the agarbatti here, from where the radiation is coming, the heat is produced from the candle. Now you can identify the smoke moving in a specific pattern. So by this, by observing the movement of smoke, the directions of the movement of the smoke, in which direction it is moving, you can understand the movement of air, that is the wind, how it moves. So these are called as convection currents. So here the sun heats the water bodies on the earth, at the same time the land on the earth. So here is the land. The land and the water bodies both are heated by the sun. Means the sun is heating both the things. Here these two bodies, that is the land and water, both get heated up. Both get heated up. Once they get heated up, the air above the water as well as land, it gets heated up. So the atmosphere, it is not directly heated by the sun. The atmosphere is heated when the atmosphere touches the bodies like water and land. So this is all atmosphere existing. This is all atmosphere. The heating of atmosphere takes from the bottom place, from here to here, likewise heating. The heat goes like this. Because the atmosphere is absorbing the heat from water bodies and land bodies. But here, there is some difference between land and water. See, for example, take some water in a bowl, some sand in a bowl. Take this water bowl and sand bowl to the sun. Keep it there for 15 to 20 minutes in the sun. Then if you have a thermometer, observe the difference. The sand is very hot compared to water. What does it shows? Sand gets heated up so quickly compared to water. So during daytime, The water bodies are heated, land is heated, but the water bodies are heated slowly compared to land. Land is heated so quickly. Even the land also, if the land is a rocky area, it will be super fast heating, very quickly heated compared to land with loose soil, moist soil. So, when you compare the land and water, the water bodies are heated slowly. Now what happens here? So in the daytime, the land is heated quickly. Because of the heat, the atmosphere, the air present on the land, it moves up. Hot air rises up. We know this principle. Hot air rises up. Here we have seen the hot air, it makes the smoke move up. You can do one more example also. You can see that hot air is moving up. You can take one candle. Now you can take a paper, circular paper. You can cut the paper as a coil like this. You can put it to a stick, this kind of coil kind of thing. With a silver foil you can make. When the hot air is moving up, it will rotate the coil. It will create some motion. And if you trap the hot air in a balloon, you know hot air balloons. You might have seen hot air balloons. The hot air balloons are big balloons that are made like this. Here they will put the fire, and inside the balloon hot air will be there. So this hot air, the balloon moves up because the hot air is lighter and it moves up. So here the hot air, it goes up. Hot air, it goes up. When the air is evacuating this place, means air is going somewhere else, then what happens here? It creates low pressure. Pressure falls. As the air is going up, here it creates low pressure on the land. Here on the water, the air is not heated because the water bodies are not quickly heated. They take long time to get heated compared to land. So on the water, the heating of air is less compared to land. As here low pressure is created, this wind moves here. The cold air from the water, it comes to the land. So daytime, you will get some cool air. From where you are getting? From the sea. You call it as sea breeze. Sea breeze. From the sea. You get it from the sea. Cold air comes to land. So now it is night time. In the night time, during night time, as there is no sunlight, both the land and water gets cooled down. During the day, they became hot. Now there is no sun. They starts cooling. For example, you heated something on the stove. Till you are heating, it will be hot. After heating, you kept it down from the stove. Slowly they start cooling. In the same way, both of the things will start cooling. But here, the land, it cools quickly compared to water. Water is not that quickly cooled. So night time, the water bodies are hot because daytime they are heated by sun. They cannot lose the heat immediately. They take very long time to lose when compared to the land. So what happens? The land becomes cooler in the night when compared with water. So on the water, the air is hot. So this hot air, it rises up. Now from the land, the cold air, it goes to the sea. So the cold air from the land, it moves to the sea. Because on the sea, on the water bodies, the air is heat during the night times and the hot air is raised, it creates low pressure here. So because the air from the land, it moves, this is called as land breeze, which you have studied in your lower classes, land breeze and sea breeze. So here we understood the point, the difference in the temperature capacity, retaining capacity of land and water creates convection currents which create the winds. The heat retaining capacity of water and land are different. Both are not retaining the heat in same way, not holding the heat in same way. Land gets heated up quickly, land gets cooled quickly, water takes the heat slowly. That means water gets heated slowly and water gets cooled slowly. So these properties of water and land, they create this kind of difference in the temperature of the atmosphere from one place to another place. So this creates low pressure at one place and pressure at other place. So by that, this makes the air to move. It creates some currents called as convection currents. In this way, the movement of air is caused. Now let us look at the part rains, how the rains are caused, the rainfall patterns, and how the rain caused, the reason behind how the water vapor becomes to rain. So we are studying water cycle. From lower classes you are studying water cycle, in that you know the water present on the water bodies and the water that is released into the atmosphere in various biological processes like transpiration and respiration. Respiration of animals, transpiration by plants release water vapor into the atmosphere. Water from the water bodies get evaporated. So all these water vapor, it mixes up with the air. The air which contains high content of water vapor, it moves from a region of high pressure to low pressure. So there the clouds are formed and it forms the rain. So this is the basic idea behind the formation of rains. So we can understand this by doing some simple activity or a kind of experiment kind of thing. You can take a water bottle. So in the water bottle, take some 5 to 10 ml of water and cap it tightly. And you place this water bottle in sun for 10 to 15 minutes. So by that, this water, it becomes into vapor. You can find some droplets are attached. Right? So the water becomes into vapor in this bottle. Now take this bottle, open the cap and put an incense stick, put some smoke into the bottle with the help of an incense stick. Just put it and immediately close the cap. Now crush the bottle as much as you can and release it and crush it again. Then what do you observe? So the air which contains maximum amount of water vapor here, it forms some kind of cloud kind of things when some smoke is introduced into that. This way you can show the formation of clouds. But in nature, how it happens? See again, this is the land. And this is the water. These are the water bodies. So these are the water bodies. So here, because of heating, the water in the water bodies, it becomes into water vapor. The water vapor enters into the air. Water vapor plus air. So even on the land, because of the biological activities, the plants, the trees from the forest and animals, they release water vapor. This water vapor mixed with air. So the air that contains high amount of water vapor, saturated with water vapor, such air, it moves from a region of high pressure to low pressure. Low pressure. Where is the low pressure? If it goes top, there will be the low pressure. This is the region of low pressure. Low pressure. So here, whatever the water vapor reached this place, this water vapor, it finds some nucleus in the sense dust or smoke particle, either a dust particle. So this water vapor, it condenses on this dust particle. They form small droplets of water. In this way, small droplets of water are formed. Slowly, these small droplets of water, they grow bigger in size. By joining one another, they grow bigger in size. Likewise, they grow bigger in size. So when they become heavy, by growing bigger in size, when they become heavy, they fall down in the form of rain. That means when they get condensed, when condensation takes place, when there is enough cooling, they get condensed and falls down in the form of rain. If the temperature is very low, if the cooling is very high in this region, sometimes the water droplets may freeze to snowflakes, sleet or hailstones. We see hailstones the rain which contain hailstones. So depends upon the cooling here. In this way, the rain, it falls down, right? So this is the way how the clouds and rainfall is caused. But here we see in our country, the rainfalls, they happen seasonally, right? So the seasonally they have, and the rainfall patterns, they are based on wind patterns. The rainfall patterns are affected by wind patterns. So what are the wind patterns? Northwest monsoon winds and southeast monsoon winds. So these will decide that. We will be listening to the news reports, weather reports. They are telling that southeast monsoons hit so and so coast of the region of India. So like that you will listen to the news reports, weather reports. So depending upon these particular wind patterns, the rainfall patterns are affected. So the next one is the air pollution. Let us see how the natural resource air is polluted, that is by the human activities. So for the sake of development, for the sake of progress, so we see different kind of changes in the history, industrial revolutions. Machines were introduced, that is for mechanical work in the factories, as well as that is for the transportation of goods, as well as for the transportation of the people. So for such kind of mechanical work, certain chemicals, certain fuels were burnt to produce energy. Basically these fuels are fossil fuels that are mined from the ground. So what are fossil fuels? They are either coal and petroleum. From petroleum we get different products like diesel, petrol, kerosene and all such. So these are the fuels which are burnt on a large scale. Till date they are used extensively in various areas. The fossil fuels are used in factories to run the machinery and to produce electricity, thermal power stations, and to run vehicles. Petrol is used in the cars and bikes and other vehicles, even the buses, trains, all the locomotives, motor vehicles are using the petrol, diesel and these kind of fuels. And electricity, to produce the electricity in thermal power stations, the coal is burned on a large scale, and in factories the fossil fuels are used to run the machinery and to run the generators to produce the electricity. So the fossil fuels, when they are burnt, they release toxic gases into the atmosphere, especially nitrogen and one more important one is sulfur. Apart from these two, the fossil fuels, they also release carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, which are very dangerous. So apart from this, some heavy metal gases are also released, but they are in a certain range which immediately do not cause any harm. But you see the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide released by the fossil fuels, they are affecting a lot. And the nitrogen and sulfur which are released by burning of this fossil fuels, they are affecting our life. So how they are affecting? The nitrogen and sulfur oxides of nitrogen and sulfur, they are released into the atmosphere, they react with the rainwater, they form acids, sulfur acids, nitrogen acids. So these, of course, they are dilute acids, dilute nitric acid or sulfuric acid. They cause a lot of damage to the crops, to the people, cause so many skin allergies and skin disorders. They reduce the fertility of the soil. The fertility of the soil is reduced by these acid rains, and they dissolve the monuments like Taj Mahal or whatsoever buildings made of carbon and other kind of materials. So these kind of problems are created by this nitrogen and sulfur, and inhalation of gases which contain nitrogen and sulfur for a long time leads to allergies. It may lead to allergies. It may lead to cancer, and it may lead to heart problems. these kind of health problems are created by these gases, right? So excess burning of these fossil fuels leads to these kind of problems. And not only they affect the life of the humans by causing some kind of health problem, they cause so many other bigger issues also. Sometimes when these fossil fuels are burned, not only the sulfur or nitrogen or carbon dioxide, unburnt hydrocarbons means when these fossil fuels are burned, in some engines, the engine efficiency is low. It cannot burn the fuel completely. It depends upon the condition of the vehicle. So in some places you see some autos or lorries when you are going in a car or bike, you'll be following some auto or lorry which is releasing very dark smoke. You feel that why this auto or this lorry is leaving this much of dark smoke? Not found in other vehicles, because the maintenance is not done. The engine is not properly maintained. So the engine is consuming the fuel and it is not burning the fuel completely, releasing the unburnt hydrocarbons into the atmosphere, which is very, very dangerous. Inhalation of these hydrocarbons is very dangerous. It will cause problems, whatever the problems we have discussed here, right? It may cause headache, nausea, vomiting. Sometimes they may affect our cells also. So this kind of unburnt hydrocarbons, whatever are released, they are very dangerous. Sometimes they form a mist kind of thing and reduce the visibility. So this is a major problem seen in metros like Delhi. So you see that there the fog that is formed is not cleared, so by that the people cannot travel, the visibility is reduced because of the dust and this kind of unburnt hydrocarbons. And they form acid rains. So these gases, nitrogen and sulfur, react with the rainwater. They cause the acid rains which reduce the fertility of the soil. They cause skin allergies, skin problems and damage to the property, monuments and all. These are all caused because of the air pollution. Now let us talk about the water pollution. We discussed how important the water is and what is the prominence of water in our life. Now see the pollution of water. When any unwanted substance is being added to a natural material like a water or air, when it disturbs the natural composition of that particular medium, you call it as a pollution. So what are the unwanted things that are coming and joining with this water? What are the sources? We can categorize the sources into three: one, chemical, biological, physical. These are the 3 points at which are disturbing the natural setup of the water. Chemical, agricultural and industrial. The agriculture, green revolution, farmers started using artificial pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers to increase the crop production. Productivity is very important. It is a social aspect, social issue. Population is growing up, more food is required. So with the intention of growing more crops, indiscriminate usage of fertilizers, that is chemical fertilizers, and at the same time usage of pesticides and insecticides, that is in the idea of getting a good production, which leads to a pollution of water. When farmers indiscriminately use the chemical fertilizers, pesticide and insecticides, when there is a rainfall, the water that is flowing through the soil, it collects the pesticide, insecticide and fertilizers into other water bodies like rivers. So in this way, the river water is polluted. Many areas, the insecticide, pesticide and fertilizer which is sprinkled in the fields gets seeped down into the ground's water level, groundwater table. So by that the groundwater getting polluted with pesticide and insecticides. So that was the reason found some 5 to 6 years back. People found pesticides in soft drinks because those soft drinks were made by drawing the water from the ground. So those soft drink factories were established in the agricultural lands. So earlier those lands were used for agriculture. There a lot of pesticide and insecticides were applied, and those pesticides and insecticides, they seeped down into the groundwater. The groundwater was polluted and they used the groundwater to make the soft drink. So by that the pesticides reached the soft drinks. So in this way the pollution, chemical pollution of groundwater or other water bodies takes place by agriculture. So pesticides and fertilizers are examples. Now industries are very important because we need so many products and goods for our daily comforts, daily needs. All these products are made in a factory. So in a factory, for processing, for cleaning, for many purposes, water is used, and the water is left into the close by water bodies. Many chemicals are produced in the factories as a waste. These chemicals, without detoxification, many factories are leaving them into water bodies. When a factory is preparing a substance, any medicine or any other chemical or any product, the waste that comes out, they should check the toxicity of the waste. If the government says that whatever your end products are coming, waste products, they are very dangerous, then the factory, it must bear the responsibility of detoxifying the material before disposal. Means they should set up some process by which this harmful material is converted to non-harmful material, then it should be left into the water bodies or whatsoever. But that is in terms to save their money, in terms to get good profits, the factories, they deny, they ignore the condition of detoxifying the waste produced in the factory. Simply they let these wastes into the close by water bodies. Those are the rivers and other water bodies. So they are polluting all the water bodies. It is the industrial source. So here the case is with chemicals. Biological, domestic waste. From houses, we produce lot of water, sewage, which you call it as sewage. The waste water that comes out from the houses, that is from the toilets, bathrooms, the bathed water, cleaned water, cooked water, all these waters, they contain lot of organic matter. This organic matter, they decomposes and lot of bacteria grow in the water. They spread diseases like cholera, typhoid, jaundice. This kind of diseases, waterborne diseases, are caused by this sewage. Not only that, this sewage or organic matter, whatever is there in the water, so it consumes the oxygen present in the water. There is a lot of organic matter, there are bacteria. So these bacteria, they use up the oxygen in the water. When the oxygen levels are decreased in the water, other organisms, they get deprived of oxygen and they will die. There is a lot of bacteria and organic matter in the water, oxygen is consumed there. The other fish and other organisms living in the water cannot get proper oxygen and they die. So the biological oxygen demand is increased. And chemicals also, they use up the oxygen, that is called as chemical oxygen demand, biological oxygen demand, COD and BOD. If they are more, the chemicals which are mixed with water using more oxygen, other organisms will die deprived of oxygen. Because in air oxygen is stable, 21% you can get oxygen, but in water the level of oxygen is varied from water source to water source. It depends upon the quality. If the water is of good quality, good amount of oxygen will be there. If the water is of bad quality with more pollutants, the oxygen level is less. So oxygen is a very big problem for the terrestrial, for the aquatic organisms. So when the water is polluted by these chemicals and biological waste, whatever the oxygen is present in the water is used up by this organic matter, it is used up by the chemicals. So whatsoever the little oxygen is present, used up by these things, there is no oxygen for the other organisms like fish and all to breathe. So they die. So that happens. So that kind of problems are created by this sources like agricultural sources like pesticides, fertilizers, industrial chemicals, effluents and organic matter. So what kind of physical damage, physical aspects that cause damage to the quality of water and cause damage to the life based in the water? Temperature. So if you see at a place, this is a dam, here the water reservoir, the water is stored here, the water will be left like this. So the water is stored at a great height. The temperature of water is different here and different here. So here it is cold, it is hot because it is exposed to sun. Suddenly they release the water. So what happens? Here the heat is high, here it is cold. The organisms, they will set up, they will lay eggs, they will give birth to the young ones at particular temperatures. Certain organisms grow well in specific temperatures. So when suddenly the water is released, the temperatures get altered. so quickly that immediate change in the temperature leads to death of so many fish and other organisms. The immediate change in the temperature may increase the growth of unwanted microorganisms which cause diseases. So that is the physical factor temperature. The sudden change in the temperature of water bodies by human activities, it leads to such kind of problem. The temperature change is caused at one place, that is reservoirs or dams at this place. Second one, thermal power stations. Thermal power stations. Thermal power station means it is a power station which produces electricity by burning coal. So in the thermal power station, water is required to cool the towers because they get heated up. For cooling they use water. They will draw the water from a river, the cold water they will draw, and they use the water for cooling, means the water becomes heated. When the water is poured on a hot tank, the water becomes hot. So this hot water is allowed to flow into the river back. In this way they circulate it. So whenever the hot water enters the river with cold water, the temperature change will make the fish and other organisms to death. Their eggs cannot be made into young ones, so by that the population gets decreased. So this is the way how the human activities like pollution and physical activities damage the life and disturb and reduce the quality of water. Now let us see the mineral riches in the soil. Soil is another important natural resource. So soil, it consists of minerals which are necessary for the growth of the plants. Air is required for the living life, water is required as well as soil is required. But how this soil is formed? Soil is a part of the upper layer of the earth, that is the crust. So the crust of the earth, earlier it used to have very huge boulders. Slowly, by the gradual process of soil formation, the soil is formed. So there are so many factors which contribute for the formation of soil, that is the sun, water, wind. All these factors, they contribute for the formation of soil. The soil is formed from huge rocks. It doesn't mean that soil is powder of rock. Soil is powder of rock plus many other things. We'll see what are they. But initially here, for the formation of soil in the first phase, the rocks which hold up the minerals must break down and become into powder. Then the minerals mix with the soil. They form the soil. So the huge rocks, how do they break? How the huge boulders, they become into powder? By these factors like sun, wind and water. How? How the sun breaks the rock? Huge rocks, they are heated up by the sun, but they are not heated evenly, uneven heating. The rock is unevenly heated because the shape of the rock is different and the direction of sunlight is different. Some parts of the rock are heated very high, more heat, some parts less heat. So this unequal expansion of the rock makes it break. See, if you take a glass test tube or a glass beaker, if you heat the glass beaker unevenly, and after heating suddenly if you pour cold water, the glass breaks. Right? So glass is nothing but made out of sand. You can compare it with a rock. Even though directly you can take a rock, you can take a rock and put it on the fire, you heat it for some time, then you put it in water, it breaks. Immediate cooling of rock makes it crack. So the sun heats the rock unevenly. This uneven heating of the rock, it makes cracks in the rock. The second thing is water. Water is another factor. How the water? As the water is flowing, sometimes the water it flow into the cracks that are formed in the rock. Because of unequal heating, the water it freezes into ice. So this ice it widens the cracks. So by that the boulders are broken. The water enters the rock through the cracks. There it gets frozen, becomes to ice. So the ice, it increases the pressure and it breaks the rocks. So that is the way the water is contributed for the formation of soil. Water is flowing. The running water it will carry small rocks along with the water pressure. These small rocks, they are hitting against the other rocks and they turn into smooth pebbles. Means the rock becomes into powder. You find smooth pebbles in the river water. On the river banks you will find pebbles, smooth rocks, smooth stones, pebbles. Those are formed by the force of the water. So water has got the force to break the rock into pieces. The sun has got the force, the heat, which causes uneven expansion of the rock, so by that cracks are formed. Wind also contributes for the formation of soil. Wind has got abrasion effect. When the wind is blowing over a rock, the wind can create a kind of friction. The wind rubs against the rock, and from the rock small sand particles will get separated, and this sand is carried by the wind. Wind has got that capacity. But all this doesn't happen in 1 day or 2 days. In 1 day or 2 days you cannot form soil from a rock. If you take a rock and keep it under sun, and the next day you claim that this rock has not become into soil, what you are telling is wrong. It doesn't happen in 1 or 2 days. It takes thousands of years. This is a very slow and gradual process. The formation of soil is very slow and it is a gradual process. Slowly it happens. So that is observed here. So in this way the soil is formed. The soil is formed in the sense here we discussed only about the formation of rock powder, but you cannot claim it as a soil, rock powder. Just we learned that how the sand is formed, how the rock powder is formed. But can you say this rock powder as a soil? If you plant some seed in the rock powder, can you get a plant? No, it is not possible. It's not possible. So what? The rock powder, it should be mixed up with some kind of material. That is the humus, organic matter. And here along with sun, wind and water, certain plants also responsible for the formation of soil. Certain plants, certain mosses and lichens. Moss or lichens. Lichens means we already studied about this lichens, fungi and algae combination. The lichens and moss, they grow on the rocks and they form root-like structures. These root-like structures, they make gaps in the rock so by that the rock breaks. Plants also contribute for the breaking of rock. So this rock powder plus humus. What is humus? Dead and decaying matter of plant or animal. The dead matter of either plant or animals, they decompose, and this decomposing material join with the rock powder, the dust of leaves, the dust of trees, twigs, organic matter, organic waste, plant waste, animal waste. Along with the rock powder, it mixes in a proper combination, and there it will have so many microorganisms. It will have small organisms and worms, and it contains water, it contains moisture, and that combination, the powder of rock, the humus, the debris, everything in a combination, you term it as soil, the wonderful material, soil. This is the soil. You cannot simply say the powder of rock as soil. But here we learned how the rocks are powdered. So this is mixed up with the humus and it forms the soil. So here we have seen that the formation of the soil. So what is the most important part of the soil? There are two parts in the soil. One is powdered rock. That means minerals plus humus. The humus part is very important. It forms in a natural setup, natural condition. Artificially, if you wanted to improve the quality of soil for good production, you should naturally follow natural, sustainable methods to increase the humus content of the soil. You can add the bio-waste, bio-compost, bio-fertilizers to the soil to improve the humus. But what the present farmers' agricultural methods and system, they are adding artificial fertilizers for a quick growth of the plants. So these artificial fertilizers, they will destroy the life of the microorganisms, useful microorganisms, that is useful microorganisms, worms, small worms, insects, useful insects, earthworms. So their life is affected. Artificial pesticides and insecticides are used, their life is affected. Earthworms are the natural revitalizing agents of the soil. These earthworms, they make burrows in the soil, so by that the aeration, moisture content, everything is improved. These earthworms, they use up the decaying matter and they produce the good nutrient, mineral to the soil. So what happens is, this kind of natural setup and useful microorganisms are destroyed by the extensive use of artificial fertilizers, pesticides and insecticides. So by that the soil loses its quality and suddenly the fertile soil, it becomes barren, unfertile. So in this barren land, the open land again gets spoiled. We have seen what are the factors that helped for the soil formation, like sun, water, wind. The same factors, they will spoil the topsoil. This is called as soil erosion. So when the soil is left barren, without any grass, without any crops, the plain soil, the topsoil becomes very loose, dry. It will be blown away by the wind, or when there is a flood, the flood water will take away the topsoil. Topsoil is very important because topsoil consists of fine grained rock powder. It consists of the proper proportion of minerals. The topsoil consists of a good amount of humus. So everything is washed off. When a soil is covered by some vegetation, either big plants or trees or grass, the roots, they hold the soil. So by that the soil erosion is prevented. So that is the reason the natural setup of the soil has to be preserved. The humus content of the soil must be formed naturally. You should follow such methods of natural formation of the humus, or you must add the biocompost, such kind of things to improvise the humus percentage to get good production, not to use the pesticides and artificial synthetic fertilizers. Now let us talk about the biogeochemical cycles. What are these biogeochemical cycles? There are certain chemicals which are entering between they are recycling, they are moving between the biological agents and geo, that is the earth. So the chemicals are being transferred from the living things to the earth to the living things. What are those chemicals? What are those particular chemical constituents or components? Especially the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. They are cycling between the living things and the earth. From the earth, we get certain things into the bodies of plants and animals. And from the plants and animals, certain things, they go back to the earth. Sometimes in between, they may enter into the atmosphere. So the chemicals, they are cycling between air, that is atmosphere, to earth, and from the earth going to bio, living things, plants and animals. In this way they are cycled. You call them as biogeochemical cycles, right? So now let us see what are those. The first one is the water cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the carbon cycle, the oxygen cycle. The water cycle tells that how the water and rains are formed and how the water is circulated between the atmosphere and the earth. The nitrogen cycle tells that how the nitrogen is reaching the soil again in the form of nutrients to the plants, and how the nitrogen, it comes to the living forms. Carbon cycle tells the cycling of carbon, and oxygen cycle explains the cycling of oxygen. Let us begin with the water cycle. So here the water cycle, if you see that the sunlight, the heat of the sun, it makes the water present on the surface of the earth and even under the surface of the earth to evaporate. How? Here, because of sunlight, the water in the water bodies get heated up and it goes up in the form of water vapor. Evaporation, you call it as evaporation. The water that is present in the bodies of animals, it goes into the water by perspiration, sweating, and when we breathe out, we leave some water vapor. In this way, And the water that is present in the underground, that water is absorbed by the roots of the trees and plants. That is by a process of transpiration. Transpiration, the plants and trees, they release the water vapor through stomata. So this water vapor reaches the atmosphere. So the water vapor is coming out by transpiration, by perspiration, by evaporation. So this water vapor is collected here and it forms the clouds. So as we discussed it there, how the rains were formed, the tiny droplets of water vapor, they take one particle as a nucleus, like dust particle as a nucleus. They aggregate around the dust particle. When they grow in size, when the size is big enough, then they condense. The process of condensation takes place. And due to the condensation, they grow in size, they become heavy as raindrops, and the raindrops fall down as rain. So this cycle is called as water cycle. Now let us look at the nitrogen cycle. What is the prominence or importance of nitrogen? Certain biomolecules means the molecules present in our body. The most important ones are proteins. They are made up of amino acids. Amino acids are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. So nitrogen is an important constituent of the amino acids. Amino acids make up the proteins. Every living organism, it needs proteins to build up its cell wall, cell components, cell functions. Every enzyme is a protein. So living organisms, they have enzymes, hormones. Of course, not all hormones are protein based, but enzymes are proteins, and they need proteins for the structural construction of cells, cell organelles. Proteins are required for bodybuilding. You know, proteins are the bodybuilding foods. For every organism to grow, to divide its cell, proteins are required. Proteins are required to form the DNA molecule, deoxyribonucleic acid, which forms the genetic material of every living organism. So for that, the nitrogen is very, very essential. The nitrogen is also helpful for the plants to form certain compounds called alkaloids, and urea is the form which is useful for the plants, and urea is a waste product in animals. Of course, it is useful for the growth of plants. So nitrogen is found in all these compounds, biocompounds, which are very essential. But where is this nitrogen? The nitrogen is there in the atmosphere. 78% of air is nitrogen. But in this nitrogen, how much nitrogen? Even though there is a lot of nitrogen is available, all living organisms, plants and animals cannot use the atmospheric nitrogen directly. We are breathing the air, we are taking the oxygen from the air directly by the lungs. You cannot take nitrogen directly by the lungs, because in the molecular form, nitrogen is inert, non-reactive. So this inert form of nitrogen is not useful for plants and animals. It should be in the form of nitrites or nitrates. But how this atmospheric nitrogen turns to these nitrites and nitrates? So the nitrogen, it converts to nitrites and nitrates. The nitrogen, it converts to nitrites and nitrates by nitrogen fixing bacteria. Nitrogen fixing bacteria are a special kind of bacteria. Those are found in the root nodules of some dicot plants. Bacteria, they are found in the root nodules of leguminous plants. So sometimes they may be living free, sometimes they are associated with the root nodules of the leguminous plants. This nitrogen fixing bacteria will convert the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrites or nitrates. Is there any other way, or only this bacteria? So nitrogen fixing bacteria, they fix the atmospheric nitrogen. Apart from this, a physical process called lightning. So when there is a storm, you will find a big light come in the sky. So the light, because of electric discharge, this creates high pressure and temperature in particular place where this kind of lightning happens. At this point, the nitrogen in the atmosphere it turns to oxides of nitrogen. These oxides of nitrogen, it becomes to nitric acid. So this nitric acid, it mixes with the rainwater and it falls down into the soil. There again it is used by the organism. So in this way, lightning helps in fixing the atmospheric nitrogen, and nitrogen fixing bacteria, they help in the fixing of atmospheric nitrogen. So when the atmospheric nitrogen is converted to nitrites and nitrates, these compounds are easily taken by the plants. So plants make up amino acid and proteins. By eating the plant and plant products, animals get the proteins into their bodies. This is the way how the atmospheric nitrogen reaches our body. This is the way how the atmospheric nitrogen reaches the body of the animals, plants. But after the plant and animal dies, how the nitrogen goes back to the atmosphere? When plant and animal bodies are, when they are dead, their bodies decompose. So when their bodies are decomposed, from there again the proteins and amino acids, they break down into, so we know that proteins, they break down to amino acids, and these amino acids, they break down into nitrogenous compounds, nitrogenous oxides, nitrogen oxides. So these oxides are may turn to urea and ammonia and nitrites and nitrates. So the nitrogen compounds are converted to nitrates and nitrites by, so here how they are decomposed. The proteins are converted to amino acids while decomposing, when the dead body of a plant or animal is decomposing, and they are converted to nitrites or nitrates, that is by another bacteria. So these nitrates and nitrates are converted to molecular nitrogen. These are converted by molecular nitrogen by this bacteria. So by the chemical reactions, the proteins, they break down into amino acids and then break down into nitrates and nitrates. So by that, they finally turn to atmospheric nitrogen. Now let us look at the another important part, that is another important molecule, that is the carbon. Carbon plays a very important role in the construction of biomolecules. Most of the compounds are carbon compounds. Say, if you see that biomolecules like glucose, the carbohydrates, they have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Proteins, they have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Fats, they have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. You say the carbon is the main element which make up the biomolecules. Means a living organism is there, existing means its cell is made up of carbon based compounds. Primarily the carbon based compounds plays a very important role. What is the source of carbon for the living organisms? Carbon dioxide is in air. Of course the percentage is less compared to other gases, but this is the carbon dioxide that is present in the air is primarily fixed by the plants. The carbon dioxide which dissolves in the water, it forms carbonates in the water. Plants, they fix the carbon dioxide in the process of photosynthesis, and it is made to carbohydrate, protein and other kind of organic compounds. So organic compounds are formed in the plants in the primary process. Atmospheric carbon dioxide is fixed by the plants. When huge amount of trees got buried under the soil by earthquakes or some other reasons, it forms coal. Coal is a large deposits of forests. Under the absence of air and high temperature, it forms the coal. So certain carbon is trapped in the form of coal in the ground. So now these plants are eaten by the animals. We are eating the animals, we are eating that plant parts. So the carbon transfers to the organic compounds of animals. At the same time, the organic compounds formed in the plants, they form the coal as well as they form the petroleum. Even certain animals which got buried under the layers of soil, they form the petroleum. So the organic compounds that are formed from the air by photosynthesis from plants and from the plants to animals, these organic compounds, when they got buried in the soil, they form the fossil fuels like petroleum and coal. So whatever the fossil fuels we are burning right now, using for other various uses, all these fossil fuels are the carbon compounds. Petroleum is a carbon compound, coal is a carbon compound, right? So the organic compounds in the animals, in certain sea animals, their shells are made up of carbonates, calcium carbonate. In the living organisms, in animals, how the carbon is there? In plants, I told you, it is in the form of carbohydrates. Plants have starch, plants have sugars, plants have cellulose, plants have chitin, plants have suberin. All these are the complex carbohydrates. Plants has got so many proteins, amino acids, vitamins, all are made up of carbon. Even animals also the same. Animal bodies, even animal bones. What is your bone made up of? Bone is a salt of calcium, is a salt of carbon, carbonate salts, calcium carbonate, calcium phosphate. So these are the different carbon which make up these salts which make your bones. So your bones are packed up with carbon compound. Your cells are made up of carbon compounds like proteins, lipids and carbohydrates. So the carbon compounds are the organic compounds. They form the organic compounds in the bodies of animals and plants. When these plants and animals, they die, they decompose, then they get decomposed, the carbohydrates and other compounds. Carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Whenever these organisms, they are living, even though they are living, they carry out respiration in their bodies, so they release the carbon dioxide out. So carbon dioxide is released by the plants and animals when they are living. When they are died, when their bodies decompose, the carbon dioxide and from the plants and animals escaped into the atmosphere. In this way, it reaches back to the atmosphere. So in this way, the carbon is cycled between different components, physical environment as well as the living things. But here, there is a kind of disturbance in the percentage of carbon dioxide because due to some human activity, what is that human activity? Excess burning of fossil fuels. We are burning coal, petrol on a large extent for running the vehicles, for transportation, for factories. For all this, we are burning the fossil fuels which are releasing a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So the high percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it will show bad effects on the health. We discussed in the previous part what kind of health problems are caused. It also creates a problem, a concern, global concern called as greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect. So what is this effect? The earth, it will have some radiation. Whatever the sunlight is falling on the earth, so the earth will re-emit the heat. Whatever the heat is receiving, it is re-emit. It will go back. But the carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere, it will retain the heat. Means it will keep the earth more hot for some time. If the percentage of carbon dioxide is increased, the heat retaining capacity of the air is also increased. So because of our human activities, the percentage of carbon dioxide is going up day by day. The heat retaining capacity, the radiation retaining capacity of the atmosphere is also increased. So by that, the radiations could not escape out. They are re-radiating the earth. It increasing the temperature, which is affecting the crops and affecting the rainfall patterns, which we call it as a greenhouse effect. Every year we notice the temperatures are rising. This is because of the percentage, high amount of carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide is produced in a lot of quantity, but it is not properly reconverted into organic compounds by plants because the forests are decreasing, the natural trees are decreasing, so by the vegetation is decreasing. So there are no ways to convert the atmospheric carbon dioxide to organic compound. So the percentage of carbon dioxide is getting increased and it is causing the effect called as greenhouse effect. So the next cycle which we are going to discuss is the oxygen cycle. It is an important biogeochemical cycle because here the oxygen is an important element, the life forming element. All the aerobic organisms need oxygen to get energy from the food. So the oxygen is present in the atmosphere, 21% of the air is oxygen. And already we discussed that organisms can directly breathe in the oxygen. We can take the oxygen by breathing. Our lungs can absorb the oxygen. Different animals have different mechanisms to absorb the oxygen by diffusion. Even unicellular organisms, they get the oxygen by diffusion. They use it in the respiration. So in the respiration, they use the oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. These two things are formed in the respiration. Both are containing oxygen, both carbon dioxide and water. The carbon dioxide is taken up by the plants in the process of photosynthesis. Plants, they prepare the organic molecules. So this oxygen is again going back to organic molecules. The oxygen present in the water is also taken up in the photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, the plants, they release oxygen out into the atmosphere. So in this way, the oxygen is recycled. From the atmosphere, it is going to in the living organisms, that is used in the respiration. So they are using the oxygen to produce either carbon dioxide or water. They are used by the plants to produce the oxygen again and organic molecules. In this way, the oxygen is cycled. Here, there is a problem that is caused in the disturbance to the oxygen present not in the normal atmosphere at one particular place of the atmosphere, one particular zone of the atmosphere. So what is that zone? So we know that the atmosphere is around the earth. It is a blanket of air that is covering the earth. If you go high into the atmosphere at higher regions, there we find the oxygen in the form of O3. Normally, oxygen is in the form of O2 in normal circumstances. But at certain heights, if you reach certain height in the atmosphere, you find the oxygen in the form of O3, which is called as ozone. This ozone is a poisonous gas. Not like the normal oxygen, it is a poisonous gas. But it is not dangerous to us because it is at very high zone, which is not near to the earth. It is not stable at the earth location. It will go to the top layers. So here it exists in the form of ozone, O3. So this ozone, is it helpful for us? Yes, in one way it is useful because it prevents the harmful radiations from the sun. These harmful radiations are filtered by this ozone. But here what the problem is, because of our human activity, one of the human activity like using some substances called CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons in refrigerating systems, in aerosol sprays, in paints, in certain chemicals they are using chlorofluorocarbons. These chlorofluorocarbons, when they are used, they are going to the top layer of this ozone layer and they are reacting with the oxygen. So the ozone molecules are reduced. When the ozone is reduced, the ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun directly hit the earth and affect our bodies, leads to skin cancers and other problems. The ozone hole depletion, it is called as that the ozone depletion is a problem. Depletion. It is because of the chlorofluorocarbons which are used. So it was recognized by the international communities and organizations. The usage of CFCs are damaging the ozone layer and causing the ozone depletion. So by that, these chemicals were banned to use in the refrigeration systems and aerosol sprays and all. That is to protect. So ozone hole means there is in particular place, it was observed that the percentage of the ozone, it got reduced. So that place is considered as a hole. So there are certain measures are taken, certain oaths are taken by the various organizations by different countries not to use such ozone harming materials in their manufacturing standards of these kind of products. So in this chapter, natural resources, we have discussed about the various resources, how these resources, they interact with the living forms, what is the interactions, how they will be in a natural setup, how they are being affected by the human activities. So here we understood the consequences if you cause any kind of disturbance in the natural resource, either in its usage of the natural resources or like you see the petroleum or fossil fuels, if they are burnt in a large quantity, they causes pollution and other kind of problems. So we have seen what are the various consequences like pollution, air pollution, water pollution, and the other things like greenhouse effect, that is due to the excess amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and ozone depletion, that is because of using chlorofluorocarbons. So all these leads to problems. So for a sustainable growth and development, we need to properly manage our natural resources. So that is the main aim or objective of this chapter, natural resources.